Button, and
Oh, okay.
we should be live. And we're live. Welcome to Self Care Sunday. It is so great to have you with us again here in our internet living room. I am broadcasting from Bushwick, Brooklyn, and want to give a shout out to all the folks in the chat. Wow, it is a crowded room in there. I love it. It's Rhyme, Quinn, Newell, Bridge, Calamitous Morpheus. I love that username. That's awesome. Zoe R, Ophelia C, Alicia Workman, Rhinoceros Rex, Nanny. Welcome. It's so great to have you here. And I have an amazing surprise guest with us today. I couldn't be more excited to have Louise G on the line, who I will introduce and share more about in a hot second. He is a filmmaker, photographer, and generally just an incredible artist with an amazing story. And I'm really excited to share more about him and let him share some of his success and stories and thoughts with y'all. Really quickly, before we get into it, I just want to acknowledge that some of you that were mods are no longer mods. And don't worry about that. I'm going to be sort of rebuilding this sort of mod structure and communities in tandem with a couple of other things that I'm developing. And just wanted to get things clear for the new year about what is what and who's doing what and how things work. So thank you for everybody who's been a mod to date. I really appreciate it, and I'll have like a process if you'd like to be a mod again for how that works and what the community guidelines are going to be, and all of that coming soon. Second, really quickly before we jump into this interview, I just wanted to send a special super duper thank you to all the amazing Wolf 359 fans that pulled together and sent us this ridiculous box. You can see this amazing unboxing, amazing box that we unbox in this video in the notes below. You can check that out. But for the meantime, we have Louise G here on the line from Nebraska. This is his Instagram. Go check him out. He's got really beautiful work that he does and an inspiring story. And we have him for a hot second. So let's get into it. Louise G, welcome.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it, Zach. I appreciate you having me on your stream, on your live stream. Really honored to do it, to be a part of it. And yeah, I'm actually right now. I'm currently in Lincoln, Nebraska, working with music artists, and you know, yeah, just really happy to be a part of the stream, and really happy to be talking to you after our last talk in LA. And as you can see, the growth has been growing, and just out here. So really happy to be a part of it. You know, always excited to let people know what I do and how I do it, and where they can go if they pursue their dreams as well, and really work towards manifesting the things that they want. You know, and making them into reality.
I love that you said that. The theme that I have for this stream is dreaming, planning, and executing with Louise G. So, for context, why don't you share how we met?
How we met. Yeah. So Zach and I met in LA. I was giving him an Uber ride to the LAX airport, and you know, just from small chatting and letting him know who I was, and trying to get to know him, and then telling him who I was again. You know, I guess he felt compelled to tell my story, which you know I would say is a good story for people to know, to understand that there are young creatives everywhere. Chasing their dreams, really to the ends of the world. So we did the mobile podcast, the mobile interview on the way to the airport. I'd never done it before, and this one is going to be my second time doing something like that, where somebody's actually curious enough and cares enough to ask me about what it is that I do and how I go about it, because it's really important. What I do is create content for artists, for other creative individuals, and bring their visuals to life. bring their ideas to life, bring, help them, basically build themselves, build a portfolio, build a catalog that they can then go on and share with their fans, with their audience, with their people, and it creates a circle. It creates a circle of people teaching others and people showcasing others and
Absolutely.
really inspiring stuff.
So I'm going to interrupt because I want to be really responsible for your time. I know you're with a crew. Who are you touring with right now, and what's the story there?
Yes, as we speak, I'm with this. We're not on tour. His name is what's your? His name is JR. He's from Lincoln, Nebraska. So I recently made the change to come back to the Midwest where I was raised, and kind of taking this as a process to re-humble myself, working with local talent, local artists, and helping them get noticed and helping them create content for their portfolios, their catalogs, so that, just inspiring and helping people grow.
That's amazing.
Which has always been part of like my job. It's always what I've wanted to do.
Right. So when I was in Louis G's car on the way to the airport, I believe I was coming back from PatriCon, and was really inspired by just how creators find a way. Sort of in the immortal words of Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way. So do creators. And I happen to have my microphone on me, and I think one of my favorite things to do is just ask questions sort of about how creators think about their work and sort of, design their lives in ways that work. Because I think success is one of those things that is thrown around as a word that really doesn't have a must look like. So I guess could you share a little bit about just your story coming up, and I guess how do you define success when you think about what you dream? What is that dream? How do you think about creating a dream as an artist? And then I guess we'll get into how you've sort of planned and executed on that.
Sure. So I'm just going to add a little backstory about how how you and I actually just a little more details so people know. So the day before, I had just gone to ComplexCon with no guaranteed entry, no guaranteed that I was even going to have work. But a friend of mine had told me to pull up to ComplexCon in Long Beach. I just finished doing a show out in Santa Barbara area, so it was like a 4-hour drive. I decided to jump the gun, go to ComplexCon, no ticket, nothing. Went there, and just using my network of friends, my network of creatives, one of them was able to get me in through general admission, and then from general admission, they were able to get me into backstage, and then backstage into the green rooms with artists, and artists of high caliber, artists that I looked up to. So that for me was a moment, me being backstage with specifically two of my favorite photographers that I admire so highly, like I hold in such high esteem. That solidified the idea that I belonged in that room, right? That to me was success. I guess as you can call it. For me, being in that room with those artists, it made me feel like I was doing something right.
Mm.
How I went from driving from Santa Barbara to Long Beach, no guaranteed access, to being backstage in the green rooms with my favorite artists, my favorite photographers. It really, that day, that was a really monumental day for me, because everything that happened wasn't supposed to happen, but it did, and it happened for a reason, and so I capitalized on it. And then it just so happened the next day I picked up Zach on an Uber ride, and felt compelled enough to share with him my story, who just happened to be the guy that set up the interview that we are on right now, which is happening again, which again to me is something that shouldn't be happening, but it is happening. And so I feel like it is my duty to capitalize on that moment. And so a lot of that can stem from my original days. And so this is where I go back and talk about how this originally happened, how everything came to play. It was, I was going to Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, and I was in the design program. I tried getting into architecture. I tried getting into industrial design. I really couldn't find the path that I felt was for me. So I decided to be a part of what they would call like a multimedia design, learning different programs. I learned about photo editing, video editing. From then, I guess I sold myself on the idea that if other people could do it, I could do it. So I'd watch these videos. I would see these photos. I would see people working with some of my favorite artists. And in a way, I put myself in their shoes and I said, you know what, if this person can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it. And I guess that's what really started moving things around in my head to create the thought process that I deserve it just as much as anyone else deserves it. All I have to do is work for it, right? I finished school. Well, even before I finished school, I reached out to some of my favorite directors, some of my favorite videographers, some of my favorite photographers who would just all happen to be from LA. And I let them know, like, hey, like, I'm a huge fan of yours, and I hope one day I can do what you are doing. Take that a few steps into the future. I graduate school. I get this job in downtown. It was a job that I hated, and it just got to a point in my life where I guess I felt like a gerbil. Like, I really felt like I was running in circles. I wasn't happy. This wasn't what I wanted to do. What can I do? I decided to get myself out of that situation. Thankfully, I was smart enough to stay in touch with some of those people that I had already reached out to while I was in college. I remember I was living with my brother, and I told my brother, hey, man, like, would you be mad at me if I left? And he was like, no, I have someone trying to look for somewhere to stay. And to me, I started realizing that things were starting to fall into place. I wanted to get out of my living situation. My brother had someone who was ready to move into that place. So I said, okay, put in my 2 weeks at work. I quit my job. I packed my car, and I think I left the very next day. I said, all right, I'm going to California. Like, this is it. Like, I have to do something. Like, at this point, it was a fight or flight, or a sink or swim,
Right.
And so, I drove out to California, still staying in touch with my network of people that I had started talking with. I got out to California. I was living with a cousin of mine who was doing music. I was sleeping on his couch. And just through him, I started meeting more people. And then I started meeting more artists. And, I mean, the rest I feel like is still being told, but it's just to the point where I really put myself into positions where I was given opportunities to do the things that I wanted to do. And then I realized that, the more time I spent doing these things, like the more time I spent taking photos, editing videos, creating content, creating designs for these people, it was starting to pay back,
Right.
Like the more hours I dedicated to it, the more I was getting back from it. And sometimes it wasn't even monetary. Sometimes it was like better opportunities. Sometimes, you would create work for someone, another artist would notice that work, and then they wanted you to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Other people started trying to link with me and network to teach them how to edit programs, to get me to help them with theirs. I did eventually, I remember when I was living out there, I did end up meeting with some of my directors that I had originally started contact with, and just working with them on sets with high budget artists, with high budget production. It's something that felt like, like it gave you a sense of belong, right? It felt like I belonged there. And just taking that knowledge, learning from those experiences, and then taking it back to my cave, so to speak, right? with my friends that were trying to do music, and then letting them know, like, hey, you guys, like, I've seen the end of the tunnel. Like, it's beautiful. It's like, let's keep doing this. Let's keep creating. You're an artist, keep making music. If you're a dancer, keep dancing. If you're a painter, keep painting. Like, I've seen the end. Like, I'm going to keep taking photos. I remember when I moved to LA, my camera broke, and I ended up having to downgrade to a lower end camera. But it didn't stop me. I never let things like that get in the way of where I was trying to go.
Wow.
I was able to save up some more money, got another high-end camera, and then just kept doing the same thing. Kept dog paddling, and I'm still doing it. I'm still at a young age. I feel very compelled. I feel very. I feel like I'm on the right track, especially when people reach out to me through social media, and they let me know, hey, I liked what you did here. I want to work with you one day. Like I would want the opportunity to work with you. It was amazing, and not just that, but just the fact that like I was able to grow a network where I could travel. I could go to a different city, a different state, and I had people that knew about me. They knew my work. They were willing to work with me. A lot of times budgets were very low. I would have to stay with my client. I would have to stay with that artist. But it gave us time to build a relationship, to get to know one another. And it's just like, even like what I'm doing right now, like I'm out here in Lincoln, Nebraska right now. Some people would call it the middle of nowhere, but there's talent out here, so I'm out here. I'm still inspiring. I'm still trying to give people exposure, trying to get myself, still trying to get exposure, and just creating content. People always ask me, "Are you a photographer? Are you a director? Like, are you a graphic designer? What are you?" It's like, I'm just an artist. I'm just a visual. I'm just a content creator. Like that's what I label myself these days. Is I just create content.
Yeah.
Whether it's photography or videos, or even if it's just through shout outs. I mean, I'm creating content, and in school we learned a lot about building movements, and so that was something that I still take with me to this day, is like how to get things rolling, like how to create a movement, how to brand yourself. And so I'm just blessed that I was able to learn so much through the things that I've been through, that like now I can do it full time, be my own boss, and then kind of just still stay in touch with people and travel and help people like believe in their dreams.
So one, I just want to shout out Lynn Lee in the chat. It sounds like Lynn had the privilege of working with you and believes you should get, more attention for the work, and was glad to get to work with you. So one of the things that I'm hearing in your sharing is that, your dream wasn't as specific as you need to be in a particular city working with particular people. It sounds like you were clear that you wanted to be doing work that was artistic and, was exciting, and it was open-ended in that, it wasn't necessarily like you could do a lot of different things and feel like you were successful so long as you have a camera in your hand for a certain amount in the week and are working with people that you enjoy and respect, and cultivating relationships that feed you creatively. And the other thing that I'm hearing is that, at every step of the game, it sounds like you've been focused on community and building relationships rather than, I don't know what else people sort of get focused on. What would you?
I guess people focus more on like a monetary goal, right? Like a monetary goal, or like a standard. Like, here's where I want to be, and once I get there, that's it. Like I'm happy there.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing was more like, why stop there, right? Like, everyone has their own little community, like you said, right? Create the community, you get your community involved. I've always felt like I've been a teacher, like I like to teach people. Like I like to, and in any way that I can teach people, especially if it's believing in themselves, and believing in the power of manifestation. Like, you deserve to be who you want to be. You just have to put in the work,
And it sounds like
I've always seen myself as an artist. When I was younger, I did painting, I've done woodwork, metalwork. So I never wanted to limit myself to just one style of art or one medium. When even like nowadays, just marketing itself is an art form. You know, there's different ways to go about it, and so
Right, and it's
cool that,
multidisciplinary. Like if you're creating content, if you're promoting yourself as a filmmaker and photographer on Instagram, there's an element of graphic design. There's an element of, content marketing. Like you're wearing 17 hats in the process of being an artist that it's going to be a challenge for your biographer to define you. I can relate to that sort of. We
right.
around these parts we call it Renaissance unicorn.
Renaissance unicorn.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. I've never heard of
we
that
made it
term.
up. It's not. I mean, I guess it's a thing because we said so. But um, I guess for folks listening, and really, I'll ask selfishly. I get told a lot to focus. When I ask for advice from mentors and teachers, and even my dad, who's a business coach. Um, you know, I love podcasting. I want to produce my friends' movies. I want to act. There's a lot of things that I want to do, and the sort of most persistent message that comes at me is is focus. And so I guess I'm curious, what do you think is the most important thing to focus on for somebody who's aspiring to be creative and maybe has a lot of different passions?
So somebody who's aspiring to be creative and has multiple passions, something that they should focus on
Yeah, like
is
yeah. What do you think
they
is
should focus.
the most important thing for somebody like that to focus on?
So the most important thing I think for them to have to focus on would have to be first of all, their networking skills. So focus on your networking, that you're working with people that are as serious as you are. And then sometimes it's easier, I find this for myself, having like short-term goals, but a lot of short-term goals, and you're knocking them out. So you especially with like how I was doing is, working with a client for anywhere from a couple weeks to a couple months, and you work with them, you set a goal. Okay, here's what you want by the end of this term, whether it's an album, whether it's a project, whatever their project is. Okay, now what do we need to accomplish that project, right? What are our short-term goals, right? So we need a catalog of photos, we need a catalog of videos, and whether it's you're doing it yourself. I was blessed in LA that I had teams to work with, so I had a team that was helping, and I was helping them, and we would create these catalogs. And so, I mean, focusing on your client, and then focusing on yourself as a creator and what you can bring to the table, and realizing what you can't bring to the table, because that's when you need to attract a team, like people that help you. And that becomes an important aspect of content creating, because it's going to get work done a lot quicker.
Brilliant. So
I don't know,
right.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. If you have like a couple more minutes, I'd love to unpack like two things that I heard that I think might be useful.
Sure thing.
Cool. The first one was networking for people who either feel like they don't have a big network, or for people who maybe feel sort of anxious about, bothering people or being annoying. And like, what advice do you have to make networking fun and sort of reclaim it as something that like, and reclaim it and reframe it as something that might be enjoyable?
Reclaim it and reframe it. That's really, that's a good one. And I'm going to use a personal experience, because when I first moved out to LA, because out in the Midwest, I was a quiet, timid kid. I didn't like to go out. I stayed in my circle of friends. And when I was in LA, my friends would say, "Hey, we're going out tonight. You want to go?" And I would always say no. No. I was that no guy, And then they would come back and be like, "Hey, you never know who we met, man. Like, we met this person, we met so and so. Like, they invited us to go here. Like, you missed out." And I realized that I was saying no to these opportunities, to these potential opportunities. So that's when I started focusing on saying yes. understanding like that you never know who you're gonna meet, and it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of Nebraska or the middle of Iowa or in LA. You really don't know who you're gonna meet next, or who that person knows. So talking with them, getting to know them. Again, like I say, what I like to do is create relationships. Right? You create a relationship with someone, you stick in their head. They recognize you for what you can do, for what you are capable of doing, and um, and so when they go to network, they're going to remember you. They're going to remember your face, even if it was a bad impression. Maybe later in the future, I've had this happen where later in the future, I've met someone who had kind of disregarded me, and then they're like, "Oh, like, hey man, like I'm sorry, like I never disregarded you. I was kind of doing my own thing, and I guess I oversaw you, but glad to see you now." And it makes you feel like I didn't stop, and then I got to that level of that person. And so that's a really awesome feeling. So just being open to opportunities, talking with people. And it doesn't matter who that person is. It could be someone with no followers, or someone with a lot of followers. You just have to be open to opportunities. You have to be open to opportunities. Obviously, there comes a time where, you need to choose opportunities, or, be careful with what paths you choose. But a lot of it is believing, believing in yourself and believing in people. You can't be scared to help someone else succeed, because, say supporting someone else's success will never hinder yours.
Right, and so, a rising tide raises all ships.
Right, exactly. So even if I work with someone and the project never gets dropped, that was a learning experience for me, Right. I might have learned some new edits while working on that project. I might have met some more people while working on that project. So I didn't lose anything. If anything, I learned, and taking what I learned and using it and applying it to my future work. And, but yeah, so there's opportunities, like networking, I feel goes in hand with taking advantage of the opportunities that come your way. Working with people, I mean, it's all very important.
That's amazing. Sounds like teamwork makes the dream work. I'm hearing a little bit in what you're saying. I do want to let you go. I guess there's just one more one question from the chat, which is,
what's that?
Any specific networking advice for a young creative person trying to get out into the art world? So I guess really, I would.
Here's what I'm gonna say, because I did this. Bug people. Don't bug people until they tell you to stop bugging them. So if you have someone you want to work with, message, email them, DM them, message their manager, message their stylist, message their photographer, message their chauffeur. Get in there, because the minute you get in there, the minute you get your foot in the door, that's your opportunity. That's your opportunity. Even if it's the butler at the door, you know him, so he gets you inside the house, and next thing you get to meet the cook, and you know who the cook is, and then you meet the stylist, and then you meet the photographer, and next, sometimes there's levels. There's levels to the, especially the music industry. There's different levels. So that's why I'm saying like, not disregarding those small opportunities. Network, bug people. Stay on top of people. Hey, what are you working on now? Hey, what are you working on now? Hey, do you need any help?
That's amazing. My only
bug people. I'll tell you, I got people that continually bug me, and it's like I appreciate them more because they stay on top of me.
Right. And what's the line?
They stay on top of the work, and they hold me accountable. And sometimes it gets on me, but at times it's like, right. I respect you guys because you guys really want to see me succeed, and I recognize that. And
I know for publishing, the rule of thumb that I got from my writing mentor was like follow up every 6 days to like 12 days, and any more than that might be like they might block you, but any less than that, they just may not take you seriously. So I don't know, is there like a rule of thumb? Like at what point does it become harassment and you'd recommend that's too much? And at what point is like appropriate for people? Because I think most people, like including myself, probably default to being overly sensitive and not wanting to bother people. So what would you say is like a good threshold of pushing without being like, at risk for being annoying?
You know, I probably would not call them or show up to their front door. That might open some no contact orders for you.
Right. So don't just show up at their
As far
office.
right, as far as like, how much is too much, I feel like they would let you know, or you would see it. Like if you're on them for a while and they still haven't replied to you, it might be a good time to move on or go about a different route. I mean, I don't want to say that too much is too much. Like, what is too much? I would just say that there's different ways. And again, I can use personal experience where I met a photographer who was above me, as far as social media followers and all that. He was a little ahead of me, and he was telling me about this artist, and I was trying to work with that artist, and so I started bugging that photographer, and he just ignored me. Well, later that night, I had someone contact me, and they were like, "Hey, I need you to come to the studio right now. Like, we need a photographer. This guy had a photographer. He never showed up. So, well, can you come?" And I was like, yes. I'll jump on it right now. And I got to the studio. It was that artist that the photographer was supposed to be working with. And I guess the photographer went MIA on them. And so I capitalized on the opportunity. But I realized, like, I was happy I didn't bugging that photographer, but I still got to where I wanted to go. I just had to take a different route to it. Like, sometimes it is a matter of patience. It is a matter of being patient and waiting your turn. I feel like in social media, especially, there's hypes. There's waves of things that happen. So sometimes you just got to know when to hold back, just like an arrow, and when to let go and go for it.
Right. And it sounds like you're probably okay if you message somebody every month for like 3 months, or even every other week for about 3 months. And after that, if you still haven't heard, maybe you can either focus on making work that might get their attention, message somebody in their network that, there's other ways to go about it, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. That would be very important. That would be a really good idea. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep creating content. Keep doing stuff that is going to get their attention. That will get their attention. Will get you noticed. But take a different route. And you never know, because you might need someone else that you decide you like working with better. Like, it's just opened more doors and more opportunities for you. So I would definitely not keep beating that dead horse.
Right.
But as opposed to, like, go and look for another horse.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to let you go, but I know that you're a busy guy. You got places to go. You'll have to come back on. Lin Lee has a question. If you have time for one more, what are your plans for 2018? And yeah, there's a lot. There's actually like 7 questions there, but I figure if there's anything that you want to plug, where should people follow you? What are you excited for people to see in your feeds?
Yeah. So my stage name, artist name, Louise G. Follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook. I have a showcase at the end of this month in Omaha, Nebraska, so I'm going to be in the Midwest until then. And then as far as my plans for 2018, there's actually already, just being a part of this interview right now, I just want to say, is a huge honor. It's a huge kickoff for 2018 for me personally, and it again solidifies the idea that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. I'm not going to let anything stop me from where I want to get. As far as my goals for 2018, I have big hopes of hopefully going on tour by the end of the year with the artist, and just continuing to create. I mean, this year, I feel just like last year, it's just going to be work. It's going to be working, creating content, building my following, going to rebrand myself this year. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen. Again, I got the showcase at the end of the month, which is another amazing way to kick off 2018. And already talking with members of the production team out in LA, Stop Sign Production. Go check them out. already talking with them about projects coming up for 2018. So we're definitely going to have some amazing visuals. Going to be working with some new clients. Going to be working with some old clients as well. And just really going to grab the reins on this social media content creating and riding with it. Just keep networking, keep meeting people, keep living life. Like I think the biggest blessing of this is being able to. The biggest blessing of this is that freedom of what's it called? The freedom to kind of like do what you want to do, work with who you want to work, make the money you want to make, and go where you want to go. There really is no limit. Whether it's you want to be a content creator for brands or artists, you want to be a content creator for shoes. There really is no set path. Like this is what you have to do, and this is how you're gonna do it. And that is what I love about it. Is I can go today from working with an artist to tomorrow working with my favorite brand to the next day working with my favorite insurance company creating content for them. There really is no limit. There is no boundaries. There is nothing that is stopping me or hindering me from doing what I want to do. And then that's what I enjoy the most about it. And I hope, people that are interested in social media and creating content, and especially if you do visuals and you're amazing at doing visuals, start small. Work with local artists, work with local brands, build a portfolio, start reaching out to people. It's never too early to start reaching out to people, and just keep building. Stay in touch with your relationships. There's sometimes just like weeds, you got to pull them out. Some relationships you gotta cut off and know when to start new ones, and keep creating, keep taking pictures, keep taking videos, keep designing work, whatever it is, whatever content you create. If you're a painter, if you're a musician, just keep doing that. Build your network.
Amazing.
Build your content.
Well, I just really appreciate you coming on the show. I was so inspired when we had our conversation in Los Angeles. You never know who you're going to meet. And the thing that, the thing that most blew me away by you was your relentless sense of possibility and your capacity to constantly take one more action that will leave you closer to your dream in reality than the action, but the moment before. Whether it's sending an email to somebody that you admire, whether it's just like, saving another $1 to buy the piece of equipment that you need to practice your craft. I think that you're an incredible template, a model, an example for people that aspire to be creative, and you inspire me, and I'm just so grateful to have you on the show today. So thanks.
Hey, honestly, I appreciate that so much. Again, I'm honored to be on your show. We will definitely be in touch. As you know me, I've stayed in touch with you since that day in LA. So, and hopefully we can meet again in person soon. Where'd you say you were right now?
I'm in Brooklyn, in New York.
In New York, there you go. Hey, I want to go out to New York soon. So
hey, man.
Now a reason to go out there, and we can create some content out there.
Anytime.
So it's really been a blessing. I appreciate everything, and for everyone that tuned in, I don't know how many viewers or listeners we got tuned in, but I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to just learn a little more.
Awesome.
A lot of things coming this year, so everyone stay in touch. Stay in tune with Zach too. He's doing amazing. His shows are amazing. They're very motivating, and so I'm glad that you chose me to be on one of them. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. I thanks again. Happy New Year, and thanks for spending as much time as you did with us.
Hey, you too. Thank you. Happy New Year's, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Awesome. Oh, man. So great to have Louise G on the show. We had done a much longer interview on my way to LAX, and the card actually got corrupted, and I was able to save some of the footage that I took in PatreCon. and unfortunately not all of it. So he was willing to come back on today so we could get some of the questions that we'd been able to talk about the last time we talked, and I'm sure he'll come back on the show again. Thank you guys for such great questions during that interview. It was awesome to have you guys on, just like chiming in left and right. And I just want to say I'm so sorry to where are you, Lin Lee, for not having more time to ask all of these amazing questions. And it sounds like you are somebody who's been connected with Lazy G, and it's awesome that you guys got to work together. And I'd love to learn more about your collaboration with him. Feel free to DM me or tweet me directly on Twitter. I see all the I see all the messages there. At Zach Valenti, ZachValenti. So I'm gonna take a second and answer Del Matra's question, who is an aspiring voice actor, but I feel like there aren't enough opportunities for me since I am 17. Do you know any other young voice actors in the podcasting community? Now, I don't know people's ages, really. That's, I think, one of the things that is so inspiring to me about the internet and sort of the lowering of the barrier to entry to make creative work that the internet's provided. You can really be any age to break in and make a name for yourself and start creating work. Now, as far as specifically voice acting opportunities, so yeah, I guess I'm wanting to get a better sense, if you're still in the chat, of, are you trying to do podcasting work specifically, or do you want to do commercial work, or other sort of like fiction narration, like animation or video games? I can tell you that there is probably going to be less work depending on how you sound until you're over 18. I know most work is sort of 18 and up, and there's an unfortunate, for commercial voiceover work, a limitation around being able to do alcohol ads, which surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, is like a lot of the paid voiceover opportunities in commercials are booze, and you have to be over 25 to do those, which is one of the reasons why I didn't book any union commercial voiceover work while I was still with the agency that I was with. So that's one thing that is an unfortunate truth about the commercial world. However, I think that there is an abundance of opportunity online. One place for you to check out is ACX. This is the Amazon Audiobook Exchange. ACX. I'm going to pull that up, acx.com, so you can check that out. ACX is a marketplace where you can voice people's books, like authors' books, like Neil Gaiman, but probably, I don't know. I bet there's a lot of competition for that. But yeah, you can sign up if you're an actor, if you're a producer, if you're an editor, if you're a writer, anybody on any possible side of the voiceover for audiobook table can kickstart their career here on ACX. I've never booked anything here. I honestly haven't tried in a couple of years because I put in way more effort than I probably should have early on, doing stuff that I might not have been great for. I hear from somebody that I recently met who uses this platform and loves this platform, and it's like a significant part of their income and living. I hear that a best practice for voice actors is to pick the 5 minutes, or I would say like 1 to 5 minutes of the script of the book that they provide if you sign up, that you think you would really nail, and read just those 5 minutes and put that out. So you're not putting too much time. One of the mistakes that I made on this platform was reading the entire chapter that they upload, which is like totally not helpful. second, I'm just going to keep copy pasting stuff from the chat that I think I should reply to. So yeah, I think you just want to limit your bet here so you're not spending more time than it's worth. And yeah, negotiate with the author that you're not doing the editing, because the per finished hour rate is usually limited to people who have a track record, meaning that you get paid per finished hour of the audiobook, which usually doesn't include your time for editing. So the hourly rate ends up being not super attractive if you're doing the voiceover, the preparation, sort of like the character study and all that, and then also the editing. Just something to be mindful of, that you're not putting in more than you're gonna get out to keep it sustainable. But yeah, there is definitely a lot of opportunity on a platform like ACX. The other thing that I would do is just let people know on Twitter and Tumblr, and check out, there are a number of Discord and Slack groups for audio fiction, specifically audio drama. And those are great ways to network and sort of get your name out there. And really, I think the best thing to do is to start writing. And if you don't feel like writing, to find people in your local community that are writers that would love to have their work shared online. Because if you're going to, volunteer your time basically and do things on spec for, if it's not for money, it should be for passion. And I think that the biggest thing that I learned from Wolf 359, aside from how to act, is really how partnership makes everything work when it comes to creativity. There is an element of, from a writing perspective, where at the end of the day, unless you're an improviser and, work best in sort of tandem with somebody, there is a time where you do have to go to the mountain, into the cave, alone, and put in the sweat equity of just letting words come out one by one, and letting that process happen. But I do find that, like, architecting, like, if you don't consider yourself a writer, but you do love telling stories and have friends that, you love telling stories with, you can definitely sit down and sort of like sketch out short scenes and start sharing those. And, I think that's initially why I wanted to be a part of Wolf 359, when it was just an idea on Gabrielle's hard drive on a Word doc, and I was interested in being a part of it, was mostly to get my name out there as an actor. So I think start where you are, and see how you can connect with other people in your community to meet your goals, and to set it up so that if your friend wins, you win, and if you win, your friend wins. I think that that's the best way to get started, especially when you're still young. It sounds like you'd like to try audio dramas like Wolf 359 and Ars Paradoxica, but most of them you need to be 21 at least or something. I think you should check out, what is it called? I think it's Inkworm is a podcast that was started by a younger crew. And I think that is maybe a model for you to check out. I have a surprise cameo in one of these episodes. So yeah, I would check out Inkworm and reach out to those creators. I know they're on Tumblr, and would love to, I'm sure they'd love to. I haven't interacted with them. I have no idea if they'd love to hear from you, but I would take Louise G's advice and hit them up anyway. And worst case scenario is they won't reply, and that's okay. But yeah, that is what I have to say about that. Thank you so much for asking, and definitely come back and let us know how it goes. Del Matra. Let's see. Somebody asked, do you have any tips for writing sci-fi podcasts? Let's see. Jade Reynolds. I think that the best place to start is with your taste. If you're somebody who loves, let's see, I grew up loving Stargate SG-1. That's what was one of my favorite shows growing up. and I can already, just like thinking about that universe, think of a couple different stories that I might make out of that world. I think the number one thing to think about when you're going to start a podcast, whether it's sci-fi or not, an audio drama fiction show, is first, do you want to tell the same sustained story over time? Or do you want to tell different stories and sort of mix it up? And I think it's the difference between a serial narrative and a what's it called? Where it, oh wow, brain fart. I had the word right there. This is the heat of doing things live. Um, oh man, anthology podcast, anthology shows. If you've ever seen Black Mirror, that is a great example on Netflix of an anthology show. As it turns out, there is some continuity between the episodes, although it is trollingly unclear where everything fits together. Yeah, the idea is it's self-contained stories, so that every week you can have a different cast and crew, and aren't married to sort of one idea. And for people who maybe want to do voice acting and want to write but don't necessarily have ideas, I highly recommend you check out this show by my friend Rachel Liu, called Anthology. Anthology podcast. I'm actually in their first pilot episode. Is this the one? Anthology? Maybe it's not Anthology podcast. Anthology. Rachel Liu. Oh, I'm going to be embarrassed if I got the name wrong, because I'm in it. No, there it is. Anthology by Rachel Liu. Back to the screen. No, don't. Oh, yeah. So yeah, Anthology by Rachel Liu. Check it out. I am in the Cask of Amontillado and a couple of the other, one of the Sherlock Holmes. I play a villain. And that is a super duper great example of what they primarily are focused on are public domain classic stories. So this is the Cask of Amontillado is an Edgar Allan Poe story. So they actually didn't need to do any writing to start their podcast. Because it's in the public domain, it's not illegal to go onto the Cask of Amontillado. And you can actually get the text from, it looks like, virginia.edu. I really like archive.org is a phenomenal place to find open public domain sort of like Creative Commons work. You can also go to the Gutenberg, Project Gutenberg, I think. Project Gutenberg is Gutenberg.org is a library of all things that nobody owns the rights to anymore. So you can go and record your story or record these stories, and it's great. And then this is the same thing for archive.org. And yeah, it is one way that if you want to act, you can just get started. And if you want to write and you're not sure what to write, you can read these sorts of things and get inspired and adapt them. I think we have some love about the yellow wallpaper, which Amateur Jargo is in on that feed, which is awesome. And then I think Gabriel Urbina has something that he adapted slightly, and that might have been the yellow wallpaper. I don't remember. So much has happened in the last 3 years. Oh, there we go. Across the Sea by Gabriel Urbina. And I believe it is a loose adaptation of something, but I'm not entirely sure. It might be purely original. I'm sorry, Gabrielle, if I totally messed that up. I'm looking to see if it is. Yeah, an adaptation of Horatio. Not going to even try to pronounce that last name. Los Books Suicidantes. Anyway, that's a thing. Cool. So, I definitely lost some questions in the mix. So if there's anything that I didn't answer that you want me to answer, please make sure to repost. Repost. But for now, Danny Schultz, how do you stay motivated to be creative? I keep coming up with ideas to write, draw, film, but I often get distracted or wait so long to try that you lose interest. Oh my God. Well, one, don't let this internet here fool you. It is really easy with like creative crushes online to feel like the person on the other end of an upload has it all together. Lord knows I am not motivated all the time. In fact, I would safely say that I'm like at a 50-50% rate between motivated and not motivated. And honestly, the thing that keeps me most motivated is one, keeping my self-care in check. So getting more than 6 hours of sleep a night, making sure I get at least something like green that was grown from the ground into my body once a day. Like not eating too much garbage food, or garbage not food. Yeah, like staying social. Jack English goes to slam poetry open mics. I think that that's a great way to stay inspired. Managing my media diet is really, really important. Making sure that I'm not listening to stuff that I know is gonna like trigger and depress me, like constantly listening to like mainstream news. Yeah, I really think that it is a active process and that I'm still in that process and I will always be in that process of staying in balance. I think the thing that's easy to forget is that balance isn't New York City or Los Angeles or Toronto or a place that you get to and then you're there forever. It's not, it doesn't work that way. Whenever I work with a physical therapist or a personal trainer or like a Alexander technique teacher, somebody that like helps me with my physical body, they always remind me how balance isn't arriving somewhere. It's a process that you're engaged in. Similar to mindfulness, where there's no like, oh, I'm now mindful. It's mostly noticing when you're not mindful and then just falling back into being present and then falling out of it. And the second that you're balanced, like a zero, like being the state of zero in a binary situation, the only place to go is out of balance. And then it's just like getting back into balance. And I think that what you might have, sort of perceived here on my channels and of me is you get to this point where it looks like, it's like a flip book. It looks like it's in motion, but at any given point, if you take a photo, you'll see it for what it is, a static image, but you just keep flipping the book. And it's like, it's a process. I think that is that. Is that clear? I hope that's clear. But yeah, I have been dealing with the reason that I wanted to talk with Louise G and pick his brain is because I've been dealing with what I want to do next, and I have a bunch of ideas. And I think that that's one of the most asked questions I've had, and Gabrielle and Sarah and everybody on Wolf 359 has had is, what the hell are we doing next? And to a certain extent, I'm already doing it because I'm going to keep doing these streams every week. I love them. I love you guys. It has just been such a pleasure to get to hang out with y'all and have an excuse to talk to amazing people like Louise G. I don't see myself or think of myself as any kind of expert or like guru. I have learned a bunch about podcasting. I've learned a bunch about live streaming. I have been out of college long enough that I feel like I've learned some things that don't work when it comes to like stepping up to the plate creatively and trying to make creativity a career. So I'm happy to, share my notes, but I definitely don't think I have any answers. And I think the biggest thing that I discovered last year or am interested in exploring this year is developing better questions and going to sleep every night with a better question in my head than I woke up with that morning, rather than feeling like I have any answer that's out there. So yeah, one of the things that I am thinking about is going back to making non-live videos in addition to my live videos here on YouTube, and branching out with other kinds of live content. I like live content because it's easy. I don't have to edit. And as somebody who feels like I'm smack in the middle of introvert and extrovert, I really do feel like this charges me up getting to like stream with you guys. And it's just one of those things that like I don't want to overdo it. So yeah, I don't know. I want to balance the being live and sort of like this sort of energy with also going into the cave and making something that's a little bit more perfect and something that I can share and be like super duper proud of because of the, just the coalescence of thought and energy, which is how I feel about some of my more edited videos. That's something I'm thinking about. And because of how much work my edited videos take and how much I want those to sort of be a little bit more planned, like I have a whole idea for like a series about podcasting gear for any possible use case, and a video that I think only I can make, having done an audio drama and having done the daily show, the Focused AF show. These are all things that I'm thinking about. So yeah, I'm basically, if you have ideas for videos that you'd like to see from me, both live and edited, here on YouTube, please let me know in the notes below. Not in the chat right now because I won't keep them. But yeah, when this is the chat disappears, unfortunately. That's why I put it in the video so that you can see it here, and that's one of the things I learned. So yeah, let me know on in the notes below, the comments below, or on Twitter at Zach Valenti. And the other thing that I'm interested in is, I don't know if you guys know, but I downloaded as much as I could think of in the podcasting domain on pod.how. Pod.how is a thing that I started, a Medium post, a short link to a Medium post that I put up that's like 26 minutes long that has pretty much everything I know about podcasting. I think I've learned a couple more things, but if you know things that or if there are things on it that I don't answer in that article, do let me know. And if there are other things that you would like to learn about, like live streaming or building a YouTube channel, I feel called to doing some online teaching because I feel like it would help me organize what I've learned, and I just like feeling useful. And yeah, so that's something I'm thinking about. And the last thing I'm thinking about in terms of what's next for me is podcasting again, and specifically bringing back a feed with a new vision that you may be familiar with. Raise your hand in the chat if you listened to Focused AF when I was doing a daily podcast in the middle of last year. It's something that I learned a ton about. It did arguably almost kill me as a daily show, but it may have been the most fulfilling thing that I've ever, thought of, started, middle, and ended in a way that Wolf 359 was more of a collaborative effort that I am even more proud of, honestly, but for different reasons. But I mean, it's like comparing children. I love them both equally for different reasons. But oh my God, amazing. But yeah, I've been, it's so great. Alsha Brown, Rhinoceros Rex, Alicia, that's awesome. And yeah, I'm, wow, that's an awesome emoji. That's perfect. Katalizi. Catalese. I've been thinking about bringing back Focused AF, and I'm on the fence about how to bring it back. Whether it should be daily, I'm like averse to that because of the amount of time and energy it takes, and I worry that I'll never get the kind of depth I want to get by spending that daily time. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking. Like I might want to do it less frequently than every day, but I'm having trouble thinking about it as a weekly show because I feel pressured to have it be more consistent in terms of the content. And one of the things that I loved about the daily aspect was didn't matter what the format was or what it would be. So yeah, so I'm thinking sort of, if I were to create a talk show, what would that be like? And should it be podcast? Should it be YouTube? I kind of want to be on both, and everybody's telling me to focus. And so anyway, I think there's a world where Focused AF could blow up and become a multi-channel brand where it's a YouTube live stream series and also a podcast and also edited videos and also like an online community and a platform somewhere where people can interact with each other and sort of compare notes on what they're focused on, whatever that is, whether it's their creativity, their well-being, and sort of the intersection of the two is what interests me. So yeah, oh, Emily Wang, that is the sweetest thing. So yeah. So Jack English says, I recommend twice a week. Quinn Newell says 2 or 3 times a week. I really like that idea. I think at least 2 days apart sounds good. Jack English, and maybe twice a week. Mitzrayim, I really appreciate that. I definitely think not daily, and whether it's once or twice a week, I think probably I'll start with weekly, and if there's a reason for twice a week, then I'll do twice a week. But right now, I think the idea is to keep this stream up, and then Lindley, I'm sorry that you can't hear anything. I'm not sure why that is. But anyway, I think what I'm going to try doing is this once a week, a podcast once a week, and an edited video once a month. I'm not committed to the edited video yet because I'd rather let those ideas percolate and publish 3 great videos one month and have gone 3 months without publishing something, than to like force something out because it's not ready. But yeah, every day is definitely overwhelming. I'm going to start probably with once a week, and I'm not sure when I'm going to start, so stay tuned for more. But I am really excited. I had lost this recorder on my way to PatriCon when I went to LA in November. Somewhere in the world, my recorder is out there with a bunch of footage with my grandmother, who passed away later last year. So if you find it, please send it back to me. 620 Wilson Avenue, PMB 244, Brooklyn, New York 11207. Make sure you get that PMB 244, otherwise it won't go to the right person. But yeah. So if you find that recorder, please send it back. Please don't delete the footage. I don't need the microphone. Keep the microphone. Just send me the chip. That's what's irreplaceable. So, to all you aspiring content creators, sync your data, sync it good and back it up. So anyway, the last thing that I wanted to say, there's a couple things. Thea Sinclair, I keep missing your questions, and I caught that. What is your questions? Harry Foster, I just had a truly wonderful relaxation session and came here to see the stream was on. Oh, that's awesome. So great to have you here. Glad to hear that you had a relaxation session today. Hashtag self-care Sunday. Thea, I'm just going to jump into the search because delays. Wait, what was that? Oh my God, 15-year anniversary. Congratulations. That's amazing. That sounds incredible. That's so great. Let's see. Do I think that there's a place for a superhero romance podcast? Yes, I do. So, a couple thoughts about this. One, I think that audio dramas are maybe the most magical thing for finding a niche for anything, because there's just so many people out there that anything that you make will be for someone if what you're making is something that you would love. And it may not be what you love about it that somebody else loves about it, but statistically it's impossible with 7 billion people on the planet, and as many of those online as there are, for you to make something that you'll love that somebody else won't love for some reason. Even if it may not be the like superhero angle, maybe they'll love the romance angle, or maybe they'll love that their name is Todd if their name, you know what I mean? Like you never know what people are going to love. And there's only one way to find out, which is to just go make some. Emily Wang, I feel the same way. Tiffy's the best. But yeah, I think that you can't lose. Let's see. Are you on the Self-Care Sunday Skype account? Oh, I'm not on the Self-Care Sunday Skype account on other days, and I haven't checked it in a while. I apologize for that. I have inbox overload syndrome. So that's something that I'm trying to get better with, and right now Twitter is the best way to get my attention, either through DMs or for direct messages. And eventually I will reply to your comments here on YouTube. I like to reply to all the comments. I eventually do, but sometimes it can take me a little bit. I'm interested in having a faster response time this year, just because I'm not balancing my commitments with Wolf 359 anymore. Anyway, the Bee and the Rose Knitting Podcast. I'll get back to that question in just one moment, and that'll be the last question of the night, and just one more enormous thank you coming up before we go. And okay, cilantro haters, welcome. I saw earlier that you are this is your first time making the stream. Welcome to the Self-Care Sunday fam. So great to have you here. So let's see. Thea Sinclair, to answer your second question, how do you translate an idea from your brain to the page? So I was listening to the Knowledge Project podcast earlier this week, and it's the attention economy episode. I forget who it was, but it was just like a piece of string. I wonder if that's been in my mouth the whole time or if it's on my hand. Weird. Anyway, I love you guys. I love being live with you. This is so fun. What did I want to say? I struggle a lot with getting my ideas from my brain to the page. And it's something that I still struggle with. And I have just been ferociously taking notes while I hang out with Gabriel Urbina, because he is a beast at that in a way that I still really, really struggle. One thing that I do is I break off of the page and I talk it out, either with a friend, and when it's unethical to talk my friend's ear off anymore, I go to the fucking recorder. Excuse my French. I also use a whiteboard, which I think you can see the corner of in the back of the... Oh, nope. But let me see if I can... You can see the very corner of this whiteboard. I got a used whiteboard on Amazon for like $100 just so I could think out loud and not on a page, because I can find it really crippling to just go into a Word doc. It feels like that little blinking cursor has it out for me. The thing from the Knowledge Project podcast that I wanted to share with you about getting your ideas onto, out into the world is to really look at what gear you're in and consider, and this isn't the truth, this is made up, but consider and like use it if it is useful, that there are two gears for human beings. There's creation and there's consumption, and you can't do both at the same time. I'm not saying that that's true, but this is just one. Consider it like a pair of glasses you can put on and just look through the world look through at the world with me for a moment. Um, and yeah, what I'm saying is, if you want to create, take a break from consumption, and a conscious one. Whether that means turning off your internet for like a couple hours on a Saturday or Sunday so that you can really focus on creating, and putting your phone in the other room and just getting yourself off of the things that can hijack your attention. Because there's just so much media out there, and there's so many communication platforms, and so many ways that you can, as a, object in motion, be acted upon by an outside force. And if you really want to drive somewhere, get as many of those outside forces out of the space for a dedicated amount of time. And I'd recommend at least 3 hours if you're trying to write. And if you can't do 3 hours, 20 minutes. If you can't do 20 minutes, start with one. But really, like, as much as possible, use a calendar, honor the calendar. I'm not the best at this, but carve out that time, and do whatever you need to do to keep it sacred. So yeah, that is my answer to that question. Good luck, Thea, and definitely come back and let us know what that is working with and what that's like. I'm not going to take any more questions from the chat, so I apologize, but I'm just going to go through these last two. The Bee and the Knee Rose Knitting Podcast. I will next week, but that's next week. In the meantime, the Bee and the Rose Knitting Podcast. How do you balance commissions, responsibilities, and pet projects? And I'm going to add pets because Tiffy likes attention too. Oh, I love Tiffy. She's the best. So yeah, and also shout out to Alicia Workman with the writing Discord community. I'm not in there on request of the community, and I strongly support everything that they do, or everything that I know that they do, which is support writers to write. And so definitely jump in there if you're somebody who wants to write and wants to be in a room with people that are engaged with the same problems you have, to be the cheerleader for you when you need one, and to have a community to, call you out when you're not feeling it. So yeah. What did I want to say? How do I balance these things? Honestly, I'm still figuring it out. I think part of it is to consider balance, and this may be a good thing for me to make a edited video about, because I feel like I have a very specific distinction here for how I look at balance. Because again, it's not Tucson, Arizona. It's, this state of being. It's not somewhere you arrive and then you're there. It's not even like, 70 years old where you make it and then you're that age and then it's like just accumulating. It's like you get it and then you lose it, and then you get it in a new way and then you lose it in a new way. And it's this living, breathing process of failing and succeeding, and refining your definition of success, and nuancing your understanding of failure, which I don't even really like to use that word. I think discovery is a more accurate word, because it's not a failure if you keep trying, and energy and persistence overcomes all things, in the immortal words of Benjamin Franklin. So yeah, I as far as tools and techniques, I have a calendar that I try to use religiously, which means I never double book myself, or I try as diligently as possible to never double book myself. And I use a to-do list application just to like track my promises and what I've given my word to, so that I'm never over committing, which I do all the time. And the only thing to do there is to contact the people that are going to be impacted by the fact that you're overcommitted and just like let them know that you're running late. The worst thing to do is to know you're running late and not let anybody know. I've been guilty of that, and it's not pretty. It's not something I'm proud of, and it just doesn't work. And you'd be amazed at how understanding people are if you're in communication with them when things aren't working. What did I want to say? Yeah, I think the other thing is there's an element of over time. I personally overestimate what I can do in a day and underestimate what I can do in 5 years. So I really look at how can I stack things so that my paying work lets me be responsible for my overhead, and even be able to like hire other people to help me with things that maybe aren't what I want to spend my time on but need to get done, and then free up my time for pet projects. And how can I design my pet projects to contribute to, feeding my responsibilities, whether, that's with the Patreon that I set up, so that if this is something that you find useful and valuable, there's an opportunity for you to contribute value to me financially so I can spend more time doing this stuff. And that's patreon.com/Zach Valenti. I'm going to be restructuring my Patreon really, really soon. And just a super big shout out to all of my personal patrons, not to mention all of the amazing Wolf 359 patrons. All of you make such a big difference in all of our lives. We're just so grateful for all of you for believing in us and contributing your hard-earned dollars so that we can do what we love and do it more and do it better. And that's only because of your generosity. I'm going to be redesigning my personal Patreon to be a little bit more focused, and also to have a one-size-fits-all reward tier, so that there's not a diversification in the community. And the higher tiers will be if you want to hire me as a consultant or a coach or a personal guided meditation leader, whatever it is that you'd want to, a voice actor, if you want to hire me for voice acting. I am really looking forward to what's possible with my community on Patreon, and I see that as an extension of that. It's sort of all one community, and I want to include that in my revamp. So please keep your eyes out for that. To wrap up, I just wanted to one more question. The Bee and the Rose Knitting Podcast. I hope that answered your question. Please come back next week and follow up with any follow-up questions if you have any, because there's probably more that I could talk about there. The last thing that I'll answer today is cilantro haters with advice on how to start big projects at a young age. I want to say don't, and I'm not saying don't start a project. I'm saying start where you are. And so I'd be curious, when you say a big project, what does that mean? And if you were to break that big project into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces, what could you do today that would get you one step closer to that big vision in your head? I know I've stopped or haven't started things that I've been intimidated by because of their bigness, and that when I really think about it, if I had tried to make Wolf 359 as and the finale, if that was in my head when we started, I never would have started. I would have been way too scared to start. Whereas just creating a show with my friends seemed like a doable thing. In a way that Gabrielle really wanted it to be a one-man show so it could happen sooner and have less chance of not happening. And I convinced him that we should hire other actors so that we could, cast people that would give voices to these other amazing characters that were going to exist off screen. I was confident that we could make that work in a way he wasn't. So it's like partnering with people is I think the best way to make any project that you do bigger than it would be otherwise. And then I would look at how can you do something sustainably, because if you can keep it up over time, it'll be bigger than it would be otherwise. So I worry that when you start with making things big, and that's the point, is that they will be big, is that you'll burn out early on in the process and it'll never get as big as it could be, no matter how big it starts out. I love you guys. And I love just the community that's emerged here. It inspires me. And somebody asked, how do I stay motivated? Each and every one of you keeps me exponentially more motivated than I would be in a vacuum. I think that, one of the expressions that I keep hearing in my life in different corners is our lives are not our own. And I get to experience that every single week that I come back here, and you guys are creating, and gals and everybody else are making things that I just never would have dreamed of. And I love all the things you're creating. I love all the sort of missions and causes and dreams that you guys have, and gals and everybody else. I'm interested in getting better at my pronouns. But in the meantime, I just wanted to take a moment to again thank the amazing Wolf 359 fans that sent us that box. You can check out, there's a link in the description to see our unboxing video, and I highly recommend you check that out. And leave us a comment there, leave us a like here, leave us a like there. I love the thumbs up. I believe that subscribing and pressing thumbs up on my channel helps my videos get discovered, so I would appreciate that. And if you are subscribed, signing up for notifications, so whenever I publish something, you'll get a little ping. That makes me feel really good. So yeah, that's another thing. And last but not least, I want to thank somebody in this community for doing something totally outrageous, personally, which is Mitzrayim. You really, really shouldn't have. And I really, really appreciate this insanely generous gift. I cannot believe you got me a friggin' Nintendo Switch. You are one of the loudest voices in the choir of I should be gaming here. And you can count on the fact that I will. I just got Mario Kart, which is one of my childhood favorites. And that little computer screen over there is set up to be a gaming station now. And I'm rigging up my live stream setup so I can start doing Twitch stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I owe that all to you. And I'm just like, what the hell? I was just in my package center flipping out, and nobody understood why. And I tried to explain it, and they started freaking out. It was just a privilege to connect with you at Dragon Con for the Wolf 359 meetup. It was amazing having you get to have a focusing conversation with Lynn on my Patreon. And that's one of the exclusive live streams that I'm considering whether we want to share more publicly, and that's entirely up to you, Mitzrayim, and we can talk about that. But I just for me, it's not about the stuff. It's about that I know that this is like a huge thing for you to spend your hard-earned dollars on, and I know that you mean it as an embodiment of your appreciation for what I do, and I consider this to be that, and I never expect anything from any of you guys, and really I am sensitive about people's finances, and I just would never ask for anything like this. And I appreciate it, and thank you for being so outrageously generous. And anyway, I will be oh my god. I will definitely be streaming stuff soon. I'm thinking about doing my first playthrough video as a edited thing that I'll stream live for anybody on my Patreon that wants to watch that. Because if it's a failure, I want to limit the failure to people who have a lot of patience for me. And yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be oxen free because Lauren Shippen said some things about that game that I've never heard about a game before, so I'm excited about that. So yeah, I love you guys. I so appreciate you guys, and I will be back next week. Stay tuned on Twitter to find out exactly when, or sign up for notifications if you just want to ping on your phone for whenever I press the red button. Until then, all my love, and yeah, happy Self Care Sunday, everybody. Now finding the button time. Gotta find the button. Found the button. Gotta press the button, and then there's